Hi, my name is Melissa Trudinger and I'm one of the writers from the APA's In Motion magazine. I'm here with concussion physiotherapist Anna O'Loughlin, who's based in Perth, and we're at the Australian Sports Commission and Australian Institute of Sport Women in Sport Congress. Anna, tell me a bit about yourself and why you're here.
Thank you for introducing me. Yesterday I presented on patterns I noticed on female athletes, especially adolescent athletes, on concussion presentation and how it differs between females and males and how I treat them differently.
How does it present differently in girls versus boys?
Girls actually sustain more concussions than males when you look at their rates of play in comparable sports. Girls sustain 1.7 times the amount of concussions that males do, and they also present differently. So males typically have more acute neurological symptoms, which are what we recognise as the typical concussion symptoms, like amnesia or memory loss initially, and confusion or disorientation, whereas females typically present or their symptoms will present later and take longer to recover. So the study that I've done on my case series found that the girls took on average 8 weeks to return to sport versus what's reported in the literature as being 2 to 3 weeks. Cause of this can be put down to autonomic symptoms. We haven't got enough research to support it, but we hypothesize that cervical neck strength and hormonal dysregulation can be more prevalent in females.
Do adolescent girls seek treatment for concussion or return to sport at different rates to boys? You've already mentioned it takes them longer to return to sport.
One of the barriers we have, and I think it's the same across all female sports, is that there's less funding involved. And so they might not always have a doctor or a physio on the sideline at their trainings or at their games. And as a result, their concussions may not be seen on the day. And so the referral through to A&E or through to a GP might not happen as much as it might in male sports, where there is oftentimes more funding for medical staff to be on field. And aside from that, then, if they do end up going to ED or to their GP, the pathways don't always exist for referral. What happens when I receive concussions into the clinic is that they've been to A&E and they get a rest advice sheet and a red flag warning, but there's no actual referral to rehabilitation. So there's, oftentimes then a delayed access to rehabilitation and then delayed recovery as a result.
What then are the barriers to adolescent girls receiving early and appropriate care for concussion?
I guess what we need to develop here in Australia is a structured pathway so that they can actually receive rehab, that they're not just sent home and told to rest for a week or 2 weeks. If we could establish a structured pathway where they were referred for a follow-up appointment in a week's time that was potentially Medicare funded, because as you know, like, the access to healthcare is more difficult if you don't have the financial ability to access a physiotherapy appointment, especially if it's a concussion one that's going to be longer than your average physio appointment.
Well, Anna, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about your research.
Thank you.